Thanks to a fierce Ukrainian resistance, Russia has been frustrated by its inability to capture any major cities so far, which is why more and more they've decided to just bomb those cities from the sky. Apartment complexes, hospitals, basically the less threatening the building, the more Russia wants to bomb it. And that has led to a fierce debate in the West over how to respond. Should NATO send Ukraine fighter jets? Should NATO enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine? So far, the answers to both of those have been no, over fears that doing either would spark a direct conflict between NATO and Russia. But over the weekend, it was Russia edging everyone closer to direct conflict.
A war that many fear could spill into other countries has taken a dangerous turn, with Russia firing on a Ukrainian military base close to the Polish border and the NATO alliance. The sky turned red, witnesses say, when roughly 30 Russian missiles struck the Yavoriv training base in western Ukraine, leaving this smoldering crater, 35 people dead, and an escalation of the war now only a few miles from Poland, a key NATO ally. The base was routinely used by U.S. and NATO trainers over the years.
The attack came a day after Moscow warned it would try to destroy foreign shipments of weapons to Ukraine, calling them, quote, legitimate targets.
Yeah, believe it or not, for the first time, Russia bombed a military base very close to Poland's border, just 15 miles away, which definitely seems like a warning. I mean, 15 miles is basically nothing, according to my friend who can't stop telling me that he's training for a marathon. I get it, you run far. In fact, 15 miles is basically as close you can get to bombing Poland without actually hitting it, which means this missile strike was basically Russia going, oh, I wish a NATO would. And on top of that, Russia is also warning that it's not gonna just let the West keep sending weapons into Ukraine. It's gonna start attacking those shipments, which is scary, but I mean, of course, they want to stop those shipments from coming in. You know, NATO is sending Ukraine its most sophisticated weapons. Meanwhile, Russia is fighting with the equivalent of a flip phone. So, if you're a UPS guy who gets a package that looks like this, you might want to watch yourself. Now, both of these developments are concerning because, like I said, nobody wants World War III. We don't want it to start for any reason. I mean, America hasn't even defeated all the Nazis from the last World War. And like my mom always says, you can't have more until you finish what's on your plates. But while everyone is trying to keep the war from spilling into the rest of Europe, as it turns out, it might already be spilling into China.
We're learning this morning that Russia has asked China for military support and other aid for this invasion. That is really concerning for the West and could be a real blow to these Ukrainian forces if indeed this happens.
U.S. officials tell us it's true, and the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is traveling to Rome today to meet with Chinese officials, and he says he will warn them not to help Vladimir Putin.
We are communicating directly, privately to Beijing. We will not allow that to go forward and allow there to be a lifeline to Russia from these economic sanctions from any country anywhere in the world.
Okay, look, I can see why America doesn't want Russia teaming up with China. You know, that would be an unstoppable power couple, like Benefer, but with nukes. But getting tough on Russia is one thing. How does America plan to turn the screws on China? Hey, you better do what we say, or we won't let you sell us literally everything we need to survive anymore because we haven't made anything ourselves in 30 years. Shit, I bet America would sacrifice 3 or 4 states just to keep getting new iPhones. And whether China decides to help Russia or not, you've got to admit, this is embarrassing for Russia. I mean, think about it. They're not even, 3 weeks into this war? And they're already like, China, can you help us? We ran out of war stuff. It's like when you were a kid at the arcade and you used up all your tokens trying to beat the first level of a video game. Then you just got to walk around begging other people for their tokens. And then when that fails, you spend the rest of the party finger banging all the machines hoping someone left a token behind. You remember those days?